The ballroom glowed in polished silver and glass, a celebration of 30 years of family business. Investors filled the tables, raising glasses to the company's new seven-figure partnership that would be announced in minutes. Anna stood backstage, smoothing the crease of her blazer, steady hands hiding years of holding the company together while others took the credit. The room smelled of champagne and ambition. Cameras waited for the smiling sister who thrived under light. Then a sharp sound cut through the music. The seam of Anna's dress gave way in front of flashing lenses. She froze, the noise louder than the applause starting on stage. Laughter moved like static across the crowd. Her name trended before the microphone was even passed. She turned away, spine straight, eyes dry, already calculating damage control. Tonight would not end in humiliation. It would begin a case study in control, in proof, and in the quiet math of dignity. What is the price of honor when reputation becomes currency? The company had grown from a small local distributor into a steady mid-sized business, pulling in about $8 to $10 million a year, with margins hovering between 12 and 15%. The structure looked balanced on paper, but inside it was a delicate equation. 40% of the shares sat with her father, 20% with her mother, and the rest was split between Anna and her younger sister, though only one of them had voting privileges. The family home still carried a mortgage of $280,000, a quiet reminder that legacy and liability often live in the same house. The new partnership on the table promised $1.2 million over 18 months, plus a $150,000 performance bonus if quarterly targets were met. For Anna, that deal meant payroll security and supplier trust. For her sister, it meant exposure, cameras, and posts that sparkled online. One believed that stability kept the company alive. The other believed that visibility did. In a family business, image and integrity had always been at war, and tonight, that tension had a dollar sign attached. The noise of the ballroom felt like static against the polished floor. Anna was minutes from walking on stage when the stylist leaned in to fix a seam, and the zipper slipped open with a sound that cut through the music. Cameras behind the curtain caught her pressing a safety pin against the fabric. Face composed, but hands trembling from the weight of what she had to protect. Someone backstage laughed, and a phone tilted just enough to record. By the time she reached her seat, the clip had already found its way to a private chat thread. Within an hour, it was trimmed, captioned, and reshared as a short that looped across social feeds. The image of a composed executive trying to hold her dress together spread faster than the announcement itself. A partner representative texted her that night, asking if the company could reassure investors about internal professionalism. Her sister offered to step in for media appearances, as if saving the family brand from embarrassment. Their parents agreed that the spotlight should stay with whoever handled pressure better in front of a crowd. Anna said nothing, only looked at the budget sheet that now carried a red line of risk. If the deal failed, payroll would stretch thin in 60 days, and a $50,000 penalty would trigger from the contract clause. Public laughter had become a financial liability, and silence was suddenly expensive. Anna left the gala before the last speech ended. The air outside felt cleaner, the kind that reminded her to start counting instead of reacting. By dawn, she was at the office, lights still off, screens glowing across an empty floor. She opened access logs, noting who entered the dressing area between 6:30 and 7. The camera server held a record every 12 seconds. She marked the timestamps, printed a copy, and placed it in a folder labeled Sequence 1. The purchase order for the gown sat in her inbox, with a matching invoice for a last-minute repair, done 45 minutes before showtime. Each document told its own version of intent. Her personal spreadsheet was no less precise. Rent stood at $1,950, insurance at $420, support for her parents at $600, and a small legal fund that grew by $150 each month. It was modest but consistent, a safety net she built for days like this. She took a long breath and opened a clean page on her laptop. Trust was not a plan. Records were. The order began where things could be audited. She called the folder Chain of Custody and stored it in a private drive that only she controlled. Inside it, She placed the printed timestamps from the security feed and the door access logs from the night of the gala. Each entry listed the exact minute the stylist and her sister entered the preparation area. Vendor emails followed, showing a rush order paid hours before the event. One attachment was a screenshot of a Zelle payment for $200 marked Video Plus Ride, small but telling. She saved internal chat captures from the PR account, where jokes about image control turned into short clips mocking her composure. The purchase order for the gown matched the repair invoice stamped 45 minutes before the show began. Together, they created a line of evidence more stable than any apology. Next, she ran a cash flow stress test. The company burned $270,000 a month, paying 28 employees with narrow margins. If the contract collapsed, payroll would run dry in 8 weeks, and a $50,000 penalty clause would trigger. She documented it all on one sheet labeled Risk Tolerance. Each interaction after that went into a dated log. She no longer debated through messages or joined casual group chats. Every response became a record, not a reaction. Outside work, she accepted small consulting projects as a 1099 contractor, bringing in around $1,200 to $1,800 a month. The money went directly to her legal reserve. Late one night, she looked at the sewing kit on her desk, fixing a torn sleeve from an old blazer. It hit her then that she was not repairing a dress anymore. She was sewing a border around her life. The head of compliance had the posture of someone who once lived by schedules tighter than fear. Her name was Ramirez, a veteran who measured people by their precision, not their charm. She listened to Anna's summary, interrupted only to ask for dates, times, and file sources. When Anna finished, Ramirez nodded once and handed over an internal report template. It was stripped of emotion, a form built for facts that could stand on their own. She instructed Anna to upload copies to an encrypted cloud and to keep one flash drive off-site, sealed and dated. Her words carried weight because they were clean, not comforting. Justice, she said, was not about who bows or who burns. It was about restoring order so people could work without fear of chaos. That definition settled in Anna's chest like armor. For the first time since the gala, the path ahead looked less like revenge and more like maintenance. The order could be rebuilt one verified fact at a time. The treasurer came to her office with a file he should not have seen but could not ignore. It was a reimbursement request drafted 3 days before the gala, labeled Dress Emergency Replacement for PR. The date alone turned her stomach. Attached was a chain of emails that started as playful coordination and ended with a single line from her sister saying, "A little chaos on camera keeps a room awake." The stylist copied and replied with a wink emoji that did not need words. Buried in the attachments was a screenshot of a Zelle payment for $200 sent the morning of the event, marked Video Plus Ride. The timing aligned exactly with the repair invoice she already had. Scrolling further, Anna found a color-coded schedule from her mother approving a small PR contingency budget for incident management, signed 2 days before the malfunction. At the bottom sat a draft contract from an outside agency offering a $12,000 payout if a branded clip reached 250,000 views within 48 hours. It had never been finalized, but it was ready. She leaned back, staring at the ceiling as the pieces aligned. This was not humiliation born of jealousy or a single cruel impulse. It was an orchestrated campaign with funding, timing, and deliverables, a plan disguised as a coincidence, proof that in her family even betrayal had a budget line. The conference room was silent except for the hum of the air vent. Her father, the CEO, sat at the head of the table, his expression somewhere between annoyance and disbelief. Her mother, temporarily handling finance, kept her hands folded over a tablet. Her sister looked down, scrolling through her phone until the head of compliance asked her to put it away. HR and legal counsel joined remotely, their small faces glowing from the monitor at the end of the room. Anna placed her folder in the center of the table, every tab marked by date. She spoke without raising her voice. The goal, she said, was not punishment but correction. Protect the contract, restore vendor trust, and rebuild internal control. She slid the evidence forward. The logs, the receipts, the emails, and the early reimbursement draft. Her breakdown was clear: $4,850 in restitution covering the damaged attire, overtime for the operations crew, and the PR containment costs the company absorbed. She requested a written internal statement acknowledging the breach of ethics, a 30-day suspension for her sister, removal of PR spending authority, and a compliance review process for any future viral campaigns. Her father asked if this needed to be public. Anna shook her head. It needed to be documented, not dramatized. Every page had a timestamp, every signature a place to stand on. Justice did not need a crowd. It only needed a record. The internal report came back 3 days later with the words "policy breach confirmed" printed at the top. The disciplinary committee issued a 30-day suspension and revoked all PR spending privileges tied to the project. HR logged the restitution payment and added a compliance checkpoint to every marketing expense moving forward. The partner company reviewed the incident summary, accepted the documentation, and signed the $1.2 million contract without hesitation. Their only note was appreciation for the clarity of the risk control plan that followed. Payroll stayed stable. Vendors kept shipping on time. At the next leadership meeting, her father read from the handbook that had gathered dust for years. He looked at the room and said quietly that no marketing stunt was worth burning trust again. It was the first policy he enforced without raising his voice. Silence stopped feeling like defeat. It became structured. Every email she archived, every note she dated, every payment she tracked was a quiet declaration that dignity could be written down. She kept funding her legal reserve, the small account that grew like proof that preparation was peace. Gossip still drifted through meetings and hallways, but she no longer fed it. She understood that truth did not compete for attention. It simply waited where it was filed. Honor was not a trophy or a headline. It was a habit built from clean records and measured speech. The calm she carried was not the absence of emotion. It was discipline dressed as grace. On Saturdays, she rented a small room at the library and called it the workshop for proof. A few coworkers and local business owners came by with notebooks and questions. She showed them how to keep receipts, write timelines, and save copies where no one could erase them. It was quiet work, but it spread. She reminded them that crowns and titles were plastic, temporary signs of power that broke easily. What lasted was consent, fairness, and compliance. Those were the things that protected people long after applause faded. If you have ever chosen silence over spectacle, this story is for you. Leave a comment with the words "proof over pity" and share one kind of evidence you plan to start keeping today, no matter how small. It might be a receipt, a message log, or a note written after a difficult meeting. Each record is a line of defense against chaos. Subscribe to the Quiet Justice series, where we explore how adults reclaim dignity through process, calm, and accountability. Every story shows that strength is not noise, it is order. Money and morals work the same way. Without structure, both fall apart. With discipline, both stay honest.